Okay, the Gemara asks, what is different about a dove that he specifically said that there was an object that that was the object he forgot? The Gemara answers, because the community of Israel is likened to a dove, as it is written, the wings of a dove covered in silver and its pinions with a shimmer of gold. The Gemara explains the parable: just as a dove is saved from its enemies only by its wings, so too Israel is saved only by the merit of the mitzvah. There is actually a profound concept also in the dove, because it's very much related in a way. The dove is the one that plucks she plucks the branch off in Noah's Ark. In this lesson, we're going to be having a look at the significance of Noah, a verse from Noah, and he found grace, favour in the eyes of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So that you've got this, the dove is the one who plucks the branch, the olive branch off. And I've done teachings previously, the one on Elijah that I did, the one that's just Elijah, and talk about this whole concept of the olive branch being Moshiach ben Dawid. So there's all kinds, the dove is associated with the revelation of who the Moshiach is. That's why we've got Shimon bar Yonah. The dove, the sign of the dove. Okay, Yeshua said, the only sign I'll give a wicked and adulterous generation is the sign of Yonah. So there's lots of deep, profound things in that. And we've got to keep looking for this sign. So bearing in mind what we've just done, let's go and have a look at the rest of this and look at some very powerful gematria. Right, so we've just read that. I don't need to go over that. However, it mentions this verse here. Now, when I brought this verse out in the whole of the verse out, if you lie between the borders, the feathers of the dove covered with silver and its pinions with brilliant gold, you can see the initial letters of the first four words spell Atbash. And Atbash is a mysterious coded cipher that's used in gematria, where the first letter becomes the last letter of the alphabet. So the Aleph becomes the Tav, and the Beth becomes a Shin, and the Gimel becomes a Resh, etc., etc. So you've got At, and it's called At-Bash, because the Aleph becomes a Tav, and the Beth becomes a Shin, and so forth and so on. So straight away when I saw that, I thought, well, if it spells At-Bash, then perhaps we should be transforming that into the Atbash numbers, which I did. The initial letters spell Atbash. If you change the letters to Atbash, they become this here. Okay, so obviously some of it doesn't make much sense, but some of it does. Things like that could be broke up to comes who, and all kinds of things. But anyway, there's a number that we can get from it. Both these numbers are incredibly significant, by the way. It's really wonderful. So 149. All right, okay. So this is this here. Im tishkavun ben shefatayim. Or this can even mean lips or shores. Anyway, let's go and have a look, because this is really quite incredible. Straight away we've got this powerful concept to Moshe the Moshiach, so we know it's very, very, very messianic. It's going to reveal to us something very profoundly messianic, because it's the square ordinal of Moshe the Moshiach. And we came across this whole concept of Moshe Mashiach as what is found in Zohar. I will have a quick look over that as well after we've gone through these numbers. But then it's incredible, because if you take Yonah, and where the Vav is filled with an Aleph, so you've got Yonah, how it's spelt, the first filling. Sorry, Yonah has it spelt ordinarily. The first filling of Yonah, and then the second filling of Yonah. And if you take both the regular and the ordinal of all those, the actual spelling, the first filling out, each letter as it sounds, the second filling out, which is the absolute essence of a thing according to Arizal, and add them all up, regular and ordinal together, you come to 1409. Okay, which is the 204th prime, probably from 1, because Hebrew primes are counted from 1. 204 is Yosef, because Yosef comes to 156, and it's got an ordinal of 48. Add them together, it's 204. 2 times emunah. Okay, so it's absolutely totally connected to the whole concept of Yonah. And we've got that concept, like I said, Shimon by Yonah, who is, according to the New Testament, Shimon K for Simon Peter, the rock upon which the entire, I don't like to use the word church, because really it's the congregation of the lost house of Israel is built. The bride is trying to get prepared for the final appearance of the Moshiach, Moshe the Moshiach. Okay, so it's all connected to this concept of Yonah. The dove is connected to the story of Yonah, to go in and gather even those that are non-Jewish. It's connected to the whole story of, the whole concept of what I'm talking about with Noah. The dove that tears the olive branch off, that represents Moshiach ben Dawid. It represents the anointing of the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Spirit of Truth. There's loads of very profound concepts connected to the concept of the dove. And it's also peace. It's the international symbol of peace. And this is what we are trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish shalom. That's the work of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, so another very powerful connection here, because I talked about the house of Shammai. Shammai is not a name found anywhere in the Tanakh or Torah. Nowhere is the name Shammai found, so we know it's a code name. Okay, it's an exact anagram of all the mentions of heaven, like Allah Shemaya, the God of heaven, that's mentioned in the book of Daniel, and it's mentioned many times. I think there's 22 mentions of the word Shemaya, which means heaven, and Shammai is an anagram of that, so it's pointing towards the book of Daniel, and we know contained within the book of Daniel is a very powerful messianic revelation regarding who the Moshiach is and when the Moshiach would come, and certain events surrounding his revealing an appearance. Okay, and I'm not going to go into that in this lesson. However, within the Tanakh, there's some initial letters of various verses that also spell out the name Shammai. Okay, and they're very mystical, this being one of them. Your heavens, which we know the word Shemaya, exactly the same letters as the name Shammai, in Aramaic, found within the book of Daniel, because I don't know whether you know, but the book of Daniel is written in Aramaic, and also the book of Ezra uses this word Shemaya to represent heaven, when the parts that are written in Aramaic in the book of Ezra are written. So it's all very mystical, all needs decoding, but this is very, very significant, because we're also talking about the moon, and we've got the day-old moon, Tahamim, and we know the moon is one of the luminaries, and primarily the moon is associated with King David. So there's all kinds of powerful messianic concepts. But Shmecha, your heavens, like I say, the word Shmaya means heavens. The work of your fingers, the moon, Yorech. Okay, so the Mispah Gadol and the Mispah Gadol ordinal come to 2,818, which is 2 times 1,409. So it's connected to all these mysteries. This is the entire verse to be found in Psalms 8:4. When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established. Okay, so it's all beautiful. But like I say, Shmaya, Mahaseh, Atzba'atecha, Yoreach. Shemaiah. So who is Shammai, and why is he related to this mysterious dove, and why is he related to the concept of Moshiach Moshe? Because he is the Moshiach. He was Moshe, who was elevated up to Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, so I also talked about this when I did the Kadori note, of whom we had said under his protection we shall live among the nations. And in this verse in Lamentations 4:20, it talks about the Moshiach of Yod He Waw He, and it's under the protection of the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Wawi that we live. And I pointed out previously how that the numbers of that are pointing to the one who will live under his protection is Shimon ben Hillel, Shimon Bar Yonah, Shimon Kefa. It's all related to that. Okay, so I've actually added some really important things, because this is taken from a verse in Lamentations 4:20 that is highly messianic. Why? Because it includes the term the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Wawi. I'll hope to do an analysis on it because it is so profound. I have talked about it in previous lessons, so we can see how it's related to this. That's what I wanted to point out, which is an anagram. Sorry, it's an acronym for Shammai. But it's also, this verse has got a square ordinal of 2855, which is 5 times 571, or a correction for 571, and 571 is Shammai filled out. There's also an atbash to this, that's 2141. That is absolutely related to the note of Kederi, which says he will raise or lift the people and prove, confirm that his words and his teaching, Torah, stands or endures. So that comes to 2135 if we add the 6 Kalel for each of the letters, and especially when the initial letters spell Yoshua. Okay, give us an indication of who the name of the Moshiach is. The name of the Moshiach is Yoshua, but like I say, that's the title for the one that he will raise, lift the people, and prove, confirm that his words and his teaching stand and endure. Okay, but this person who has got the title of Yoshua is Shimon ben Hillel, who is Shammai. Okay, who we're talking about now. The Day of Atonement also has got this 1409. Very, very important. It's also linked to the fact that Purim will be the only festival that remains according to what sages say, because it's a day of absolute celebration. It's also a day where, like the book of Esther, it doesn't even contain the name of Yod-Heh-Wawi. What it does contain, however, is this incredible divine providence. It reveals sheer divine providence, the hidden power of God to overwhelm all these powerful forces, such as Haman, may his name be erased in his memory. Okay, and the Kippurim, it's got the letters of K. Purim, it's like Purim. Okay, that's where it gets that from. And this is what it will be like in the end, when our eyes are open to see the absolute divine providence, where Yod-Heh-Wawi has been fulfilling his Torah perfectly throughout these 2,000 years of exile, which reveals to us the hidden concept of the Moshiach ben Yosef gathering in the lost house of Yosef, and how Yod-Heh-Wawi has been doing that in perfect accordance to the Torah of Moshe, so we can yoke this experience of exile to the Torah of Moshe, to know that the Torah of Moshe is perfect, and the concept and Moshe is true, i.e. the concept of the Mashiach is a true concept. Okay, and it's a great even Mashiach ben Yosef, Shimon ben Hillel, Shammai, suffering with us outside the camp, i.e. outside the camp of Israel and in the camp of Rome, his whole descent into this exile and the suffering as a consequence of that, and the whole fact that he's totally concealed. He's concealed in layers and layers of filth equivalent to boiling excrement. This is one of the terms for where he's concealed in the Talmud. I've gone through that. That is actually a code name for Galuth. But he's in this exile with us and suffering, and really he was a Nasi, he was a prince. He sat in the seat of Moshe, yet he chose to leave his high status and come really down into the pit of exile in order to gather us in. You know, he provides atonement for us. He prevents us from suffering, from accessing the 50th level of impurity, and he suffers for us. He bears our illnesses. You know, so he is providing atonement. He's the ultimate righteous one, the ultimate righteous one, the ultimate tzedek, the ultimate that is Moshiach ben Yosef. That is the entire, you know, really the that represents Yesod. But like I said, this time he's covered in this filthy foreskin of Esav, and we need to circumcise that by circumcising our own understanding regarding the concept of Moshiach. Okay. And revealing the perfection, the Hebraic, the kosher perfection in this concept. Okay, so for Passover to the Isles of the Kittites and see and send to Kedar and consider diligently. So this is mystical, okay? So triangular number, it comes to 2,818, which is directly related to this Shammai. Why is Kedar important? Because Kedar is one of the tribes of Ishmael. It's in fact the tribe of Muhammad, which is another title. It's the Mahmed. Okay, it's another title. It's another messianic title. It's another messianic title associated with Moshiach ben Dawid. And even King David tells us he is in the tents of Kedar and he's waiting for peace. He is for peace. They are for war. Okay, so there's all kinds of mystery involved with that. I've spoke about this often. So again, we've got this very, very powerful messianic verse from Jeremiah 2:10 that needs powerfully decoding also. As we can see, it's connected to some very powerful concepts. So we need to start to understand exactly what's written here now, because also the Kittites is one of the tribes, I do believe. It's actually another code name, but it's one of the tribes that will be overcome in the time of Moshiach ben Dawid. Okay, let's have a look. I just wanted to actually pull this up because it's a prayer that actually we should be saying. So at this time now, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but you know, where there's a war in Israel, most people will be aware of it, but the Jewish people say these two psalms, the Psalm 120 and the Psalm 121. Usually they do like a mishberach in the shiul. So during the Torah reading, before they say the maftia reading, the second reading of the seventh aliyah, the seventh Torah portion, they usually stop and do some prayers. And sometimes at that point, I think they ask, they do also the chapter 120 and 121, certainly around that time, and they're praying really for Israel. So these are good prayers to say on a daily basis, at this time especially. But in here you get, woe is to me, for I have sojourned in Meshech, I dwelt among the tents of Kedar. Okay, so it's telling you where Moshiach ben Dawid has descended to, the tents of Kedar, which is an Ishmaelite tent, and it's the tents that Muhammad or the Mahmed came from. For a long time my soul dwelt with those who hate peace. I am peace, ani shalom. But when I speak, they come to wage war. Let's just go back. Okay, so that's some explanation to that. I will just say the Kittites, I just looked it up. I had made a mistake with this. It's it's a different group of people. It's the Cadmonites and things like that. It's all coded name, by the way, but they're the tribes. It's not particularly talking about this tribe that King David will overthrow. It was another people that begin with the letter K. I've just got myself muddled up. Okay, but this is very powerful stuff. On the king on the way, for the king on the way. Okay, Lemelech al haderech. Let's hope he's on the way now. He's on the way to us. He's actually in a state of disguise. I do believe. When you go and have a look at that 1 Kings 20:33, for the king on the way, but the king is in disguise. But it's 1409. Yeah, it's actually the prophet that disguised himself. But here, look, it's very mystical, this. It's all highly messianic. This word here, Wayit Hapesh, the regular and ordinal have added them together. That is the word for disguise, and there's 3 times it's in about this disguise. 1 the prophet, 1 King Saul, and 1 Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh himself comes Wayit Hapesh, and it comes to 888. The regular and the ordinal added up together come to 888. So it's very mysterious. A prophet went and waited for the king on the way, and he disguised himself with his headband over his eyes. Okay, so there's a lot of mystery in that. Like I said, I just wanted to point it out because, again, it's highly mystically coded messianic revelation for us. Okay, and finally we've got the sister of Aaron, Aaron's sister, Achot. I don't think the Yud is supposed to be there, but it's Achot Ha'aron. Must have just picked a Yud up for some reason. The Mispah Gadol and the regular come to 1409. 88, by the way, is the ordinal of Yeshua and the ordinal of Yonah added together. 53 and 35 come to 88. So something very significant about Aaron's sister and all these mystical things. Why would that be? Because she really represents the Holy Shekinah. She represents the kingdom, the Malkuth, and you know, she's really like a shattered vessel, isn't she? When they were in the wilderness, she actually died on the 10th of Nisan, which exactly a year later Joshua led the children into Eretz Israel, and that was the day that they were circumcised. They've not been circumcised in all the desert wanderings for 40 years since they left Egypt, okay, because of the dangers to them in the wilderness. Aaron's sister died exactly 1 year prior to that, but at the same time, what happened is the day she died, the water stopped coming forth from the rock. Now the rock is connected to Shimon Kepha, Simon the rock, and it's also connected to the rock that Yaakov lay down. This is in this week's Torah portion, by the way. The rock that the rock that Yaakov lay upon, and he could see the vision of the ladder from heaven to earth. Okay, so the rock stopped bringing forth water as soon as Aaron's sister was dead. Why? Because she represents the congregation of Israel, if you like, the kingdom of David, the Holy Shekinah, the vessel. And it's a little bit like when the oil stops pouring once the vessels are full. Once that vessel dies or it shatters, there's nowhere for the water to go. The vessel causes the water to come forth out of the rock. But there's no vessel. What was Moshe left to do to bring forth water? He struck it with the rod. We're going to be having a look at the whole concept of the rod. So he struck it with the rod and brought forth water that way because there was no appropriate vessel. So he had to bring forth water somewhere. Now that rod represents the rod of Elohim, that is the cause of all the troubles of our current exile. We'll go and have a look at that in a minute. So we're in the process of rectifying this situation so that we can drink that water from that rock again. Okay, that really is Moshiach ben Yosef now. That really is trapped in Rome in some way, symbolically so at least. It's trapped in exile. It's trapped in immature consciousness because we don't thoroughly understand the true concept of Moshiach, and then we don't really know truly understand the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, because blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. So all these are very important. We've got to build appropriate vessels in order to contain that water flow from that rock. And now it would appear the only way we can get our water is to with a rod that's whacked it, and then that puts the whole concept of Moshiach into exile. By the way, because it was on account of that Moshe wasn't allowed to come into Eretz Israel, and then he's buried outside of Eretz Israel, and he's buried in a defect, and then we need to wrestle with all the forces of darkness, like what we're doing now, all the forces of exile, the forces of Erev Rav, into which his Torah has descended, in order to reveal the perfection of the concept of Moshe and why he hit that rock. Okay, and see it in a positive way as in a negative. He had no choice. There was no vessel. There was no way. There's nothing appropriate to fill the water. So he just had to find a way to make that water come forth. He knew we needed water. Okay, but then by him doing that, you diminish the actual name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and then you're left with this situation that we're going to have a look what the rod of Elohim represents. You're left with a situation where you've got a false concept of Moshiach, and through the false concept of Moshiach, we don't thoroughly know the true name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We're exiled from his name. His name has been diminished by this act of hitting the rock. And when you think of who the rock then becomes, Shimon ben Kepha, that goes in and gathers in the lost of the house of Israel, and he was held in captivity, like Shimon was held in captivity within Mitzrayim. There's all kinds of powerful connections that we've got to start making those connections now. It's because we haven't got appropriate vessels. The only vessel that can contain a blessing is the vessels of Shalom. Who has Shalom at this time? Who has a rectified body that is so rectified and so conforming to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah, it's able to be filled with a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah? We are totally and utterly filled with, and our bodies are inspired by the evil that we are experiencing. So we're frightened, we're traumatized, we're depressed. We should be serving God all day, every day with love and joy because we're so aware of his name. But in exile, it's very difficult to attain that level of rectification so that our vessels can actually contain that light and be influenced by only his name and only conform to his name and imitate only his name. We're really fighting our own shadows. And it's very difficult to rebuild the temple, rebuild our bodies that have been shattered by the traumatic experience of living in this world at this time. It's very difficult to build those up with Shalom. We only the power of the truth as revealed to us regarding the concept of the Moshiach and bring us that level of assurance that gives us the absolute understanding there's only Yod-Heh-Wah and nothing else beside him. And everything is part of some powerful divine providence to bring us up to that revelation. Well, let's go and have a look at this about Moshe the Moshiach, because we've just been having a look at it, haven't we?